I didn't come with a presentation, but I'll put one together of some of the salient points and some of the salient ideas and some links that I'll get to Dennis and Suzanne a little bit later on, so it can go up on the website as well. Well, we've heard a couple of interesting ways of using Watson Analytics. I want to give you a different approach. Now, a little bit of background. I've spent 30-odd years in Rolls-Royce Aerospace in Derby in many different roles as the interface between the business and the computing world, and finally ended up on a couple of big business process re-engineering projects in between about 95 and 2000. And then I decided to stop being at Rolls-Royce and go into academia. And it's been kind of fun. In the last 3 or 4 years, I've had a couple of interesting roles. The first one is a purely academic role of looking at teaching, learning, and assessment within the college that I work in and the department. And we've been coming up with some rather interesting and very, very different ways of doing things to the traditional approach. And in parallel with that, over the last 3 years, I've also been involved in leading the development of our big data and analytics programs at undergraduate and at master's level. And I've also acquired an incidental role of getting out and about rather more than many of my colleagues do to business conferences where I'm invited by about 5 different conference organizers to run sessions or to provide speeches or talks on governance and analytics and generally stir things up and to make the name of the university. So 3 parallel roles which kind of all come back together in what I want to talk to you about for about 5-10 minutes. So what we've been doing over the last 2 or 3 years is to use 3 different products on our programs because we don't want to lock ourselves or our students into just one product. We use SAS, we use IBM Watson, and we use R. And we're going to bring in other ones like Qlik and Tableau so that our undergraduates and graduates, particularly graduates, postgraduates, can actually make sensible decisions between which product to use in which context and which circumstance when they get out into the real world. Because not every company uses SAS or Watson or R, and there are very interesting reasons why each company makes its own decision. And so we want to address, and our primary focus in our programs, and it now happens to be at the university level, is employability of our students. Now, as academics, we are familiar with the complaint from business that we produce technically competent graduates and they're unemployable because they have no soft skills. And so what we've been doing on one of the programs I'm really tightly associated with is to start thinking about how can we do that? Because, teaching technical skills, how to program, whether it's in C# or SAS or almost anything else, traditionally is a lesson plan of sort of 12 sessions in the term, and we'll do selection this week. And so you have a whole set of code up there on the slide, and then you have a whole set of questions for the tutorial which I prepared yesterday that are good for you. And they kind of get disconnected. They don't understand why they should be doing all this stuff. And in any case, higher education is not about training how to do. Higher education is all about understanding the world and about understanding questions, not answers. We should not, as academics, be teaching answers at all. I teach you an answer, you stop learning. And so as part of all of this, we started thinking about what are the critical soft skills and how can we develop those in students and how can we use it to actually make them much, much more employable by using soft skills very heavily in assessment. We don't bother to teach them SAS, we don't bother to teach them in the formal sense Watson or R. With SAS, we say, here's the 20 chapters, here's all the exercises and the data, go do. You've got 35 hours to do it, go fix. Our contact time with me and with my colleagues is for more interesting things like problem identification, firing up curiosity and inquisitiveness. So with our assessment exercises and all the work they do for us, it's not here as a data set you must use, but go find There's public data, there's open data out there of extraordinary amounts and extraordinary sizes. I mean, if we as academics are putting together a data set, we're lucky if it gets to more than 50 or 100 lines or rows, because it's a bit hard work. We tell our students in SAS, first year, second semester, go find 2 tables of data over 2,000 rows long that work together. Go do something. And then give us a 5-minute video of what you've done, why you've done it, and what were the critical insights you've gained from it. A video, not a presentation, because if it's a presentation, probably we have to do it in class or when they stand up. No, a video. They've got to learn how to make a video. They're learning all sorts of interesting skills. They're telling us why they chose that data, which is of interest to themselves. Not interesting to me. Why should they use stuff that's interesting to me? And we do that again, and we did that last year when we first picked up Watson with an amazing amount of help from IBM. They came and talked to us about Bluemix and about Watson Analytics. And Randy Messina there is our major contact, and he's helped us astoundingly. And between it, by end of October, we got access to Watson Analytics, a professional version, 500-odd columns, 10 million rows for the 30-odd students, both in Derby and a partner organization out in Dhaka in Bangladesh, where they had 10 students. And the challenge was find a big chunk of data from wherever, as many sources as you needed, and then do something with it. And produce a 15-minute voiceover presentation in PowerPoint about why you chose the data, what the business problem was that you were trying to investigate, what you needed to do technically in terms of data cleansing and loading, the ETL sort of cycle. And typically that could be importing straight into Watson Analytics or could be via DashDB. And then, what were the analytics you used and why? And what was the insight you gained? And we also actually connected to the Principles for Humanity, which some of you may have come across, that have been created by Roberto Zaccari out in Germany and has been going around the world. Essentially an update in the sense of Asimov's 3 laws of robotics applied to data analytics. And those, we actually then published 5 of the best of those videos up on YouTube, and you can get those now. A lot of the Watson Analytics team has seen them. They've gone around quite a large number of people around the world, I've noticed. And we did the same with the first-year students who produced a 4-minute video. Now those, remember, are going up there in public, and those students can now link to those in their CV, on their LinkedIn profiles, to showcase what they can do to help make them more employable, more likely to be found as they go for apply for their placements in their 3rd year. So we're looking at the skills of presenting. We talk to them in their classes about problem solution, problem identification, structuring communications, which is the sort of things we should be really good at, guys. They can learn the technology, and we know that most of our students who go out on placement and are doing technical things, there's no support from, in many respects, from their supervisor or their colleagues there. They have to go find. And so we're teaching them how to learn to learn. And that is what's so important. I guess most of us are learning to learn and just doing more and more learning as we develop through our academic career. And we're trying to build this into our students from day one. And so that's what we did with Watson. We just brought it in and let them play. And we are actually the 2nd university, I believe, outside of the USA, second only to Deakin, who now have access to Watson Analytics for students on a campus-wide basis. And we're just rolling that program out because Watson is rather interesting. Those of you who've used it will have found that it's so easy to dump a load of data in, and whereas in any ordinary sort of statistics system like SPSS, Cognos, SAS, whichever, you've got 100, 200 columns and you're trying to find out what's interesting. You have a heap of paper notionally about that high. And finding which is the critical insight can take you weeks and months. But Watson Analytics, in one of its sections, will say, oh, and by the way, the most interesting insight is this triplet. Now, if we give that, as we're doing now, to all of our students across the university, to get them past the technical difficulties of SPSS and stats to the interesting insight, that'll fire up this digital native, digital aware type of person. And that's what I feel is so important about Watson Analytics, is that we can give it to sociologists, we can give it to literature students, we can give it to almost any type of student across the whole university, every single discipline, where there is data. There's lots of data. But they don't want to struggle with the technicalities of text mining. They want something to do it. And so we're going to be using DataWatch Monarch as well to help with that, which some of you may have heard of. And as part of all of this, we're also getting a graduate to produce how-to videos, about 5 minutes per video, about Watson, and is then going to be doing DataWatch Monarch in a couple of weeks' time. And they'll be up there on YouTube with playlists available. In fact, just while we were starting this, I got an email from him saying, here are the links on YouTube for the first 3. So we're also trying to get them, to help the rest of the community, and to help themselves, and to becoming curious and inquisitive. Thank you.